So yes, I mean, deleveraging is one way to really adjust the economy, as you mentioned in the past. But what I see is that when the firms or banks or individuals are deleveraging, the U.S. government is in fact re-leveraging, right? So the government issue more bonds in order to inject money into the banks or other firms. So do you think will this kind of changing or the re-leveraging of the government will even make the things worse, or will it help with the whole process of deleveraging?
Look, I think that's a horrible way to run the economy, but it's what's happening right now. And I think all that we can expect out of the government is to contain the damage over the near term, but not spark a new dynamic recovery. For the government to take over banks, insurance companies, possibly the automobile industry, and who knows what's next, that really changes the model, changes the rules, changes the incentives, changes the creativity of the American economy. This is bad news. This is not good news. It's a stopgap measure to deal with a horrible economic recession and crisis, but this is not good news for the U.S.
And it's not good news for China either.
No, it's not good news for China. China needs and wants a dynamic market, but you know, China's got issues of its own. Too reliant on exports over the last 7 or 8 years in particular. When your export share went from 20 to 40% of GDP, you failed to develop internal private consumption as an alternative, and now you're paying a price for that with a sharp slowdown in export-led industrial activity in China.
So when we think of the possible recovery path in the U.S., many people now say, you know, we don't see any new growth drivers, because in the past we see IT or .coms were the drivers, or finance lately, right? So what will lead the recovery, you know, even say after 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think the American consumer for 14 years expanded at about 3.5% to 4%. That was a very powerful force of economic recovery. That's finished, done, over. Don't count on the American consumer. It's the biggest consumer in the world, but we went too far. During that period, you're right, we had IT, we had finance, we had housing. Those sectors are largely finished, although the IT dynamic, I think, is going to be important. The one area that I think we're focusing more on, and I think this will be a major focus of the new Obama administration, will be infrastructure, something you know a lot about in China. We're also going to be focusing to a much lesser extent on new alternative energy technologies. I don't think this piece of the United States is going to be large enough to drive the U.S. But you must really revise your perception of the United States. The U.S. has been an engine of global growth for the last 50 years. The engine is now going to go at a much, much slower speed. We went too far, too fast, for too long, and we're in a very severe recession right now with prospects for a limited recovery at best.
So if President-elect Obama asked you for like advices to help or to stabilize the market and the economy, what will you say? I mean,
my advice is very clear. Do not listen to members of your own party, Mr. President-elect, who say that we need to provide support and stimulus for overextended American consumers. We need to bring down excess consumption. We need to provide stimulus for consumers to save and to recycle that saving into investments in infrastructure, alternative energy technologies, and human capital. That's the program. And by the way, I'm encouraged that President-elect Obama seems to be moving in that direction. That's very, very good news.
So in other words, the government should focus on the economy more than on the market.
Yeah, the markets will take care of themselves. We're obviously in a credit crunch right now. That needs to be addressed. We have addressed that through massive liquidity injections by the Federal Reserve and through this so-called TARP plan that is being administered by the U.S. Treasury. So far, though, despite all the massive efforts, nothing's working.